Hi everyone, I'm Anisha. Welcome to my channel on astrology and tarot. We're going to be looking at your annual horoscope forecast for the year 2022-23. We have another intense year ahead, and for those of you who follow astrology, you must have read about the Pluto return that is happening in the United States. And the main thread of this year is going to be around global and political power restructuring that is going to be happening. And Pluto return this year, it's returning. So basically, Pluto is returning back to the home where it belongs from where it started. This specifically is going to be happening in February 2022. And as per the astrological charts, the similar way that we have individual charts, even countries have their own astrological charts. And during this time, we have Pluto, which is returning to the place from where it started some 248 years back. And even though it's like it moves very slowly, so it's almost like a very quiet revolution that is taking place. And also, I personally feel that the entire rumbling around the Pluto return started when Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008. And that is a time when all of the silent revolution or the silent chaos really started, whether they are financial or economic power struggles or whether they are political restructuring globally that started. And more so, I would say, for United States, and also how it affects all of us globally in different countries, because United States is pretty much the financial hub for a lot of countries from where they borrow. Um, as per the chart of United States, which was cast for signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776, the planet Pluto sits in what we call as the second house, which is the house of earned income, and this is also the house of money, possessions, and necessarily they are not our own. This is something that we have earned, but this also is a house of self-worth. So besides transformation, that is a very Plutonian aspect. What is it that Pluto is trying to teach all of us globally this year? um, Pluto is the lord of underworld. He's the lord of life and death, regeneration, rebirth. And also it speaks about our own shadow side, as to how accepting are we of our shadow side as well. And also it speaks about our own need to create self-worth for ourselves. Now this entire aspect, this Plutonian transit, along with the Plutonian transit, will also need to be seen as to where exactly Capricorn is transiting for you in your own charts. Because Capricorn again is all about self-worth, and it is governed by the sign, or rather the Capricornian sign is that of a sea goat, which is the mythological goat which can climb over any mountain, any obstacle, and it needs to win in order to succeed, and also in order to create a self-worth for itself. And especially because we have Capricorn also sitting in the second house along with Pluto, so it really speaks about dealing with the shadow self in order to know what is it that it needs to be working upon to prove its worth. Also, it's a very Capricornian, I would say, a Capricornian aspect wherein that you feel that a certain thing is not enough. You need to be working harder. You need to be keep providing. You need to be literally not just providing. I think you constantly have to be in some state of motion of work in order to be creating your self-worth, or maybe to be seeking that validation from people around you. And of course, till the time that something comes and breaks that cycle and raises our consciousness onto it. So let's talk about Pluto now. I'd just like to give a little context as to why is it that there's so much of trepidation around Pluto, and why they're, I wouldn't say fearful, but concerned for sure, to really understand as to who Pluto is. So out of all the mythological stories that are associated with the planet Pluto, there is the important one which is linked to the Greek god Hades, who was the lord of underworld, and he had a rather tight and unyielding control over it, and Hades ruled the realms of those who were passing from this world into the next world. So his name and his myth are associated with power, with transformation, resurrection, the shadow, the riches or the unseen, and with the life and death and rebirth cycle. And I think one of the most poignant Plutonian stories that which he shares with Persephone. And Persephone, by some accounts at least, she was abducted by Hades to become his wife and to help him rule his realm. But most accounts describe her abduction and initiation into the underworld as a very intense process, where she was stripped of the life she had known in order to undergo a rebirth that enabled her to rise up and be one of the most powerful deities in Greek mythology. So, in astrology, Pluto is, I would urge you to have a look in your birth charts as to where exactly Pluto is transiting for you. And so similarly, it's associated with similar processes of transformation. And Pluto transit in our life usually tends to accompany periods in our life which take us down in order to rebuild us. It's literally like rising from the ashes, and that also means that we surrender every ounce of our power so that we might remember what it means to own and wield our power responsibly. Very deep and very heavy stuff, but this is something that needs to be mulled over, something to be introspected upon, because this aspect is not going off anyway quickly for us. So for you, Taurians, this is the Plutonian effect is going to be happening in your house of higher learning, long distance travel, the law, the expansion. You can become quite obsessed during this time about learning more subjects around the world. You may want to um, go far, maybe leave the country where you were living and literally migrate to some other country. It speaks about breaking out the chains around your life and gaining as much as freedom as you can, but could also mean that you could be also be running away from what's important and meaningful. Some of you could in the bargain experience legal issues more easily and struggle to gain control over the situation. Now, how you can really survive the Plutonian aspect, Taurians, is that because this specific house of long distance travel, since we have this house where the Pluto transit is happening, it is ruled by the optimistic Jupiter. And while Pluto is all about darkness and seriousness and work that needs to be done, there is going to be a degree of balance that needs to be struck as far as optimism and as far as caution is concerned, or even as far as realism and obsession is concerned. You may find yourself swaying between both. You may find yourself that one day you really want to be completely free. Don't want any restrictions. You don't want anyone telling you what to do. It could be the same in relationships. It could be the way similar thing in your career as well. And but the trick also over here is to strike a balanced tolerance over here, because for some of you, you may end up being a rebel without a cause, and you may feel that if the more, also I think in relationships you find that your partners are trying to control you, the more you're going to be pushing against that. But also, I think it's important that rather than breaking relationships or um, even leaving jobs that are women, saying that, oh, I cannot be dealing with this kind of a work area because it demands too much out of my free creative space. The idea is to just take these short breaks and have the space, take the space when you desire it, and rather than just throw it all away. So it can in relationships also indicate that you could end up feeling quite isolated, and it's just not a it's not a good space to be, and it could be a far bigger price that you may initially have thought that that you're going to be paying. So great time to be learning, great time to be. Also, I would say don't get too lost in what you're learning. Don't get married completely to what it is that you're learning. Keep your mind open. And as far as, of course, law is concerned, ensure that you're on the right side of law. And if you are already there, if there's already some trouble that is there, then show it. Prove it that you are serious about transforming yourself. This transit specifically for you can be more prominent in your life, especially if you have another transit planet that is there in this house of learning, higher learning, and travel. So it could be if there is a hard Saturn or a Uranus aspect that is transiting along with the Pluto aspect for you. So it would be worth your while to be checking over there. We also have your ruler Venus that is also retrograde in the same house for you of long distance learning and travel. In fact, it is going to be retrograde till about end of Jan for you. So this is again a time Venus is going to be encouraging you to look at big plans, ideal notions, and also it could be encouraging you to take bigger risks than maybe you could be prepared for. And it can also be a time where you could just be indulging yourself as far as, I wouldn't say where physical senses are concerned, but even as far as food is concerned, you could just be maybe overeating, or you could just be on a kind of a gourmet expedition, and you could just be enjoying your food more than it's required. Maybe you may also find that what you really want and what you really believe is being dragged down by what you used to care for. But for a lot of you, I think you are really going to push through this, and you're going to go out and get what you really want. um, a lot of enthusiasm, especially if there's a new project that is there. Besides enthusiasm, you're going to be needing a lot of focus. Determination and stubbornness is not going to be enough, Taurians. So ensure that you're really disciplined emotionally, especially as far as a new project or something, creating something new for yourself is concerned. It's just that being excited and enthusiastic about it is not going to tide you over it. And around the April 30th, we have a solar eclipse that is there in your own house, and we also have Uranus that has been there for a while. And eclipses for you this year in 2022, they're going to be affecting your relationship. So a lot of focus is there in your sense of self and in your house of marriage. So they're going to be absolutely, they would be diagonally opposite each other. Both these houses are going to get affected. So wonderful time with a new moon or a solar eclipse in your own house, Taurians. In April, good time to be reinventing yourself, maybe changing your perceptions, trying to learn more, because there's so much of focus that is there on higher learning. Maybe you may come across some research, some data. Maybe you may look back at the past history, and you may realize the way that you have perceived certain people, it has been false, it's not been true. So reinventing yourself emotionally, mentally is going to be really huge for you. Also, as far as, of course, the external external you is concerned. So whether it is um, getting a new haircut, doing a wardrobe overhaul, or just generally taking care of yourself is going to be quite a focus for you. However, I would still say that it's a great time to be focusing on the inner self, great time to be reflecting on what is it that needs to get changed so that you're more aligned to the larger picture this year. Good time also to be trying something new, especially if you have been gun shy. It's a time where it's also a time where you can pretty much get everything right, Dorian. So don't shy from saying, "Oh, I'm not good at it. I don't want to do it." On May 11th, we have Jupiter that is moving into your house of behind the scenes. It's the house of spirituality, compassion, and it is also the house of service. And Jupiter is moving into Aries during this time. So from May 11th till October 9th, we have Jupiter that is going to be there in your house of behind the scenes, and then briefly it's going to be going retrograde when it moves to Pisces from end October to end December. So your sense of compassion during this time could get really heightened. Maybe you may feel that you're there for a higher purpose. There is something that you need to be giving back more to the world. Again, I would say that do not get lost in the cause. Do not get married to the ideas, the theories, something that you're reading. Almost, I would say, like a cultish. Don't get associated with the cult of saying that, oh, this is the way that things are done and everything else is wrong. Try and use your own personal intelligence as well along with it. From May 16th, we have a lunar eclipse that is there in your house of relationships, specifically your house of marriage. But this also speaks about both your business and your personal relationships. And this is a time where it can be that for some of you, you know, you could be re-looking at your relationships. You could be looking that maybe something needs to get changed. Maybe you need to be in a certain way. Maybe you require more space and how it is that you ask for that space. Maybe there is something that you want from your partner and that is not being addressed. So how is it that you approach it? Maybe you are being too oversensitive or overcautious. And as far as business collaborations are concerned, this could also be a time where you may decide to cut ties and you may just feel, or even a project may come to an end and you may feel, okay, this is a time to be moving on. Now, between September and November 2022, we have a square which is there between Saturn and Uranus. And for you, this is going to be aspecting your house of your sense of self and your house of career. So you could feel quite polarized between these two. They could almost be the sense of, I want to follow my passion, I want to follow my dream, but then there is also a very structured environment, but also a guaranteed way wherein that, which is giving you, paying you bills, or even I would say a kind of a wider stage which gives you those accolades, which gives you that recognition. So it can be that where Uranus is urging you to go ahead and be free and follow your heart, but Saturn is saying, you need to be following structure. There are bills to be paid. You need to be responsible. You need to be implementing the lessons that you have learned. On October 25th, we have a solar eclipse that is there in your house of marriage, and November 8th, we have a lunar eclipse that is there in your first house. So we have Mars that is going to be going retrograde in Gemini on October 31st, and this is really encouraging you to look at your own set of values. Are there better ways of utilizing your resources? Are there steps that you can take or ways you can assert yourself to ensure a more secure future? Great time to be looking at your budget and replanning. Maybe if there's certain investments that have that are dead right now. Maybe you need to be re-looking at that. Maybe you need to be planning for the year ahead, doing an expenditure sheet. It's a good time, Taurians, to be doing a pro and a con analysis, or even I would say take a second opinion, maybe from a chartered accountant, on your finances as well. We will close the year with a lunar eclipse, which is there on the November 8th. And end of the year, we'll have Jupiter, which will move back again into your house of behind the scenes, which is the house or which covers your spirituality, and also it is the house of family secrets. At times it can be that something really gets expanded at home, and maybe stuff comes out, stuff that you're not willing to deal with as of now. A lot of focus this year, I would say, with the eclipse especially, it is there on the sense of self. So a lot of reinvention of the self, a lot of work on the self, a lot of letting go of your idea of who you are, in order to create a newer self, a newer, stronger self that is more adaptive, that is more, that can, I would say, get along more with the current situations, in your life. There is no need to be holding on to the past anger, resentment, perceptions that are there. The world keeps changing as we speak. People keeps changing, and irrespective of what a lot of people say, that oh, people don't change, they are who they are. Maybe for certain people, yes, it is true. But as far as our own perceptions are concerned, there is nothing which an in-depth learning can teach us, help us change our perception, and help us get along much better in our relationships and lead a far more richer and fulfilling life. So don't shy away from the transformation, Taurians, and do remember that along with a lot of enthusiasm, focus is required. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I'll see you again soon, and thank you so much for